Hang in
Dude,
there. It is.
that Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Smylie Show. Thrilled to have Collin Morikawa joining us today. Collin, what time is it? Where are we? What's on the coffee order for this morning? Are you a coffee drinker?
I am a coffee drinker. Thanks for having me, Smylie. We're back home. We're in Vegas, 7 o'clock, nice and early start. We have this nice fancy coffee machine. I don't know how to use it, but I let Kat do the thing. And we got like just a little bit of brown sugar, kind of like a shaken espresso, like that you would get at Starbucks, but just way better. Just regular milk, a little bit of sweet cream, and just so like you can still taste the coffee, which is really good.
Yes.
But I don't drink on the road. Like
you don't. No coffee on the road. Jitters?
I almost get a little jittery. Yeah. And I think it's a little scar tissue. I used to drink a lot of coffee in college. Like we all did. And I'd go to qualifying on like a small, I drank a lot of coffee, a lot of coffee. But like I'd go to qualifying and I'd have the jitters and I'm like, oh, it's probably not the best idea. So.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. And I would imagine that you drank a lot of coffee because probably Cal was a much more difficult school than LSU. So I probably didn't have quite as tough of a time as you did, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I wouldn't put them, maybe their bubbles touch a little bit. If you put like a Venn diagram on like academics, athletics, maybe it's like slightly over.
Yeah, the classes I went to is how good are you at peeling a crawfish? How fast can you maybe chug a beer? And then a little bit of marketing stuff.
Be good. No, I think I'd be good at that.
Yeah,
maybe I should have went to LSU.
Yeah, I'm sure you still got some eligibility left. We'd love to have you at the Tigers.
Go Tigers.
It's 7 a.m., so I need to get you warmed up a little bit. We can't just jump right in here. So I want to know, what's your favorite PGA Tour city to visit for food or coffee too?
Yeah. LA is like cheating. So I'm going to take Riv. I'm going to take LA out. Like I grew up there. We don't go to New York enough. Like what was fun, like, obviously we just came back from Travelers and that was amazing because you have a ton of pizza. So like, that's awesome. So New Orleans has grown on me. Like Louisiana has grown on me. My first stop for Dessert Classic was actually, I was like getting used to it. Obviously a lot of butter, a lot of heavy food, a lot of fried food. And now I've found my spots. Like my favorite restaurant, I think one of my favorite restaurants all year is this place called Shaya. I don't know if you've ever been. Shaya.
They have so many great restaurants.
Mediterranean, Greek, Lebanese type food. And it is, it is one of my favorite spots. Like it's hard to pick a city because some of the cities I just have like one or two spots.
Right.
And I'll just eat there all week. So that's, I just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. The first time you have those char-grilled oysters in New Orleans for the first time, you see all the butter and you're like, man, these are unbelievable. And then the next day you're like, why do I feel like shit?
Yeah. Not even the next day. Like
that night.
They have them on the Pro-Am. They have them during the Pro-Am now on Wednesdays. So like you tee off on 10 and they'll have it on the first tee. And you're on the toilet in like 2.5 hours. Like you're trying to rush this 18-hole Pro-Am group to kind of go a little faster.
My best New Orleans story at the Zurich one year, it was the first round. I'm playing with David Toms and Charlie Hoffman. So David Toms is like the best crowd. And similar situation, get off to a rough start with the stomach. And on the 12th tee, porta potty right over there, needed to go. And come out, hit my tee shot, had no idea. And David Toms and Charlie Hoffman, being the older veterans that they are, they didn't tell me I had toilet paper draped on the back of my belt loop. So that's New Orleans summed up in a nutshell.
I don't think I'll ever take a deuce in a porta potty. I don't think I ever have.
Buddy, I didn't have an option.
I don't care if there's an option. I think I'd rather go in a bush. I think I'd rather like squat on the side and go in a porta potty. Those porta potties are disgusting. Like absolutely filthy.
Tough scene.
Absolutely filthy.
Really tough start to the tournament on my third hole.
That's nice. That's a good feeling. Hey, freed you up. Probably freed you guys up, and you just cruising the rest of the day.
Actually, because that was the week after spring break. The first time we went, I shot 68-81. So I don't know if that was the first round or the second round. I'm gonna have to guess it was the second.
We're gonna guess it was the second round. Alternate shot. So that was probably a little brutal one.
Yeah. Dude, you mentioned LA too. I know that's your favorite city. It's where that's your town. Are we going to talk a little Bronny LeBron? Like, is that?
Yeah.
Are we going to go there?
Man, I was at, so, I practiced at Summit and I was in the cold plunge and hopped in the sauna, and literally 2 minutes later or 20 minutes later, I look at my phone and Bronny gets drafted. Look, I think I have mixed reviews. I'm very happy for JJ Redick. I got to know JJ a little bit.
How great is he, man?
He's the
so
best.
Fun to listen
he
to.
Is so good. So I'm excited for him. And, me growing up Kobe fan, I've gotten to know Pau Gasol a little bit over the past few years. Like, Lakers to me is like, that's everything. Like, that's what I watched growing up. I'm a huge Lakers fan, huge Dodgers fan. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Obviously, he had the health scare. So I think that kind of like took him out a little bit to see what his full potential was in college. But it's interesting. I mean, you're like, what? He was the 55th draft pick. You're kind of in that zone where, like, now you got to go prove yourself. It's like you got to go prove yourself, whether it's in summer league or whatever it is, and like earn a spot. Like, everyone's talking about the name and all that stuff. Obviously, he wants to play with Bron. I think it was like a play. I think it was a play for the Lakers to keep LeBron.
That's a good point.
Like, right? Because he wants to play with him. That's a good point. Yeah. And, if I was another team, like, I was reading things like the Celtics should have just drafted him. I think it was the Celtics before. Like, the Celtics should have just drafted him.
The Pistons should have drafted him in the first round and then gotten LeBron to go to Detroit.
Exactly. And just held him like, by a little string right here and be like, hey, LeBron, come on. So, it's who knows what we're going to see. But the Lakers need, I think, a full just reset. I think they're at a spot now where the West Coast conference, West side is just looking so strong. And it's, LeBron's getting old. Not that he's not amazing, but he needs other players around him.
Yeah, LA is definitely a Lakers town and a Dodgers town. So I imagine that you're constantly following those teams, and I'm interested to see how Bronny does too, because the stats doesn't really validate a second round pick by any means, but he definitely has good genes, I'd say. So we'll see what happens there with Bronny.
It helps. I mean, look, the knowledge is there, and that's like a big part of it. Is like, just understanding the game. Like, he's got that, and he's got the best dad you could ask for in the world. So
yeah, he's pretty good at his job, I'd say. Man,
it's not bad.
So let's get into what it's always fun to kind of have guys like yourself come on and just do a bit of a deep dive into when you turn pro and where you are now, and just kind of look out throughout the years. And there's things that I picked up on that I was like, man, I don't remember that. And holy crap, that's kind of wild to think about. And I'm sure you have those moments too, looking back at over the years thinking, man, I was kind of young and I was kicking ass. So let's start in 2019. You go to Cal, you have a tremendous career there. And before we kind of get to when you turned pro, was there ever an option or a decision while you're in college to leave early?
The thought was definitely there. So I'm going to go all the way back to the summer between my freshman and sophomore year. And I played one Corn Ferry event. I got in through a sponsorship exemption through Transmiss. And like back then, I feel like like now we're seeing Miles Russell. He's a 15-year-old kid playing a PGA Tour event, right? We're seeing all these amateurs play. And like, even 6-7 years ago when I was in college, like, I didn't feel like as many of us were playing in these events to kind of get starts and just to learn what it's like. So lost in a playoff in Wichita. Kansas is like one of my favorite states. I think my record there, if we ever have a tournament in Kansas, just, lay the hammer on me.
Game over.
Yeah, it's over. Like, people are done. I think I finished like first, second.
We need a U.S. Open at Prairie Dunes. There you go.
Set. So like I'm there. So that was my first time where I got a true test of like what professional golf was like. Lost in a playoff to Ollie Schneiderjans. I'm pretty sure you played again. Like, you guys are roughly the same age, right?
Yeah. What year? So you were going into your sophomore year? I didn't even go this far back.
2016.
Goodness gracious, man.
Yeah. But I mean, I was still no one. Like, I was not anyone at that point. And that's where I was like, okay, well, maybe, if I won, and like everyone in my corner was like, no, like, you're not, like, that's not smart. So fast forward, get through junior year.
So
and
if you would have won, do you think you would just turn pro?
I don't know. I 100% would not have been ready. Like, golf game wise, everything. Like, I would not have been ready, but it's hard to say no if you win as an amateur and say, okay, I'm going to stay an amateur and go back to college. Right.
Yeah.
But lost, it all worked out. So, you can fast forward to junior year, have a great junior year. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I can go. But from the very start, I said I was going to go to college, finish up. I got in the business school, 2-year program. And I just felt bad that like I'm doing all this stuff to accomplish these goals. And it's not like I'm not just signing up and doing this stuff just for fun. People do that and like, so be it. Like they know what they're setting forth. But one of my goals is to finish college, and I had one more year. At that point, golf was never going away. We didn't know what COVID was. I mean, think about it. I feel so bad for those kids that were, graduating at that time, but it was not going away. I could prove myself even more and just get more reps and kind of use that senior year to just be as prepared as I could. So I used that senior year to get as prepared as I could for when I turned pro. And I thought I had one of the easiest transitions turning pro in that summer of 19, where I was like not shocked at all. Golf, you obviously had to play good golf, but like nothing surprised me from any direction when I was out there, which was nice.
You showed up to the Travelers. That was your first sponsors exemption after you had turned pro, right?
No, that was my second. So I played Canada. So I went sectionals, Canada, US Open, Travelers. That was the first one for like Victor.
I just assumed maybe Wolf, that, yeah.
And those were all their first ones. But I got in Canada and like got the ball rolling fast as I could.
Because I was looking at the Travelers, you finished T36 there, and then 3M was interesting because you finished second to Matthew Wolf, but then it's also kind of a good reflection of at that time. It was the three guys that everybody was talking about. It was you, it was Matthew Wolf, and it was Victor Hovland. How much did you pay attention to what other guys were doing? I know you looked Matthew Wolf head to head and eye to eye at the 3M, but right from the get go, I mean, you guys were just off to such a fast start.
Yeah. I think when it comes down to it is like, we were all obviously all playing great golf. Like that's within it itself, but like our belief in ourselves that like we could do it. And then seeing Matt play well, seeing Victor play really well is just like, we're just going to kind of like ride each other, not that we were competing against each other, but essentially we were the 3 to 4 sponsor exemptions every single tournament for that summer. And we all wanted the same goal, right? We all wanted to earn our card for the next year. And after Wolf had won, I mean, that was his second start or third start, second start. Like we're off to the races now, and it's like no slacking. I mean, Wolf's getting into the WGCs at that point, like he's getting into everything. And after 3M was like, okay, well, I was like really close to earning enough points in that 125. And this is one of my favorite stories is like, we get to John Deere the next week. I finished 4th. I finish up and like, I'm happy, but like, whatever, I'm kind of over it. And JJ's like, oh, you just earned your card. Like, congrats. And I was like, yeah, thanks. And he's like, you knew you were going to do it. And I was like, I did. So that was like a point where in our relationship with me and JJ, who's my caddy, is like, we just had that sense of like, we're going to get things done. You kind of set your mind to it. There's a million pieces that have to go right. But he was like, oh, like, okay, maybe we can do it. Like, it wasn't like a fluke a week ago and it wasn't a fluke this week. It's like, okay, things, you just play good golf and good golf takes care of it anywhere. And that's like the simple truth of it.
How did you meet JJ and how'd y'all get set up?
I was actually interviewing, like I had 3 caddies that I had lined up like to call, like, and that's it. And like, I mean, you've gone through this. Like, I don't know how to hire, like, how do you hire a caddy? Like, no, there's no book on how to hire these guys. And right before I was going to go to sectionals, and this was maybe like a month before, he reached out to my agent and, my agent called him up and sounded like a good guy. And so I called him up too. And, the only question I asked him was like, are you organized? And like, for me, that's like everything. Like, I just want to be on time. I want someone to be there, someone I can trust. So we started working, and sectionals was our first event. He noticed that like, I literally could not putt for my life. Like, I think we were through 20 holes. I had hit maybe 18 out of 20 greens, had like 1.5 million 15 to 20 footers. And on like the 21st hole of our second 18, he's looking at me. He's like, hey, like, I'm a pretty good golfer. Like I read putts pretty well. Like, do you want me to read a putt? I'm like, sure. Like, I mean, I can't sniff the hole. So we have like a 35 footer. I drain it. We go to the next hole. I have like 25 feet. I drain it. And then we make it on the number. So that was a nice start to our caddy player relationship there.
Yeah, little did JJ know that 35 and 25 footers what got him the job.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
For a guy who's like that keeps hitting it to 20 feet and he finally gets the ball to go in the hole, it's like, yeah. You're hired. You're hired.
Exactly. Like, oh man, you can read a putt? Like, done. Sign me up.
Yeah, and you got off to such a fast start, and I think a stat that I'm sure that you get frustrated by now is it's an incredible stat because it'll probably nobody will get as close to a Tiger Woods record like you did in consecutive cuts made right off the get-go. I believe it was 22 consecutive made cuts to start your PGA Tour career. Tiger Woods had the cut streak record at 25. How badly did you want to take down Tiger's record with that one?
It frustrates me because you know where I missed my cut? Was at Travelers.
It was
Travelers. At Travelers.
Yes.
It was Travelers. It was literally at Travelers. And like Travelers has just haunted me the past few years. Like I love the event and I love the course, but like I've just not played well. And I'm not going to name the player, but there's a player that joined me on the practice round. So I'm curious if he ever listens to this podcast, if he's going to remember this. And I was playing great. I mean, I had just come off, I think I lost in a playoff at Colonial. So this is like right after COVID, playing good. And this player comes up to me and he starts talking about the golf swing, and I'm playing this practice round. And he starts, I'm not blaming it on this player, but like we go to this, we have like 2 holes left and he's like talking to me and he's like telling me how to hit cuts. And I'm like, well, me, like, I think I know how to hit my cuts. I mean, I've been doing it for since college. And I'm like, all right, so whatever. So we missed the cut and I'm just like so bummed because like you said, like it's so hard to get to any Tiger record. So when you get close, it's like, man, like, this is the best thing ever. It all worked out because I think I missed the cut and then I won the next week. So now I think whenever I miss a cut, I'm going to win the next week. Hasn't played out exactly like that, but it's a good like thought to have.
Yeah, when we finish up this conversation, I got 3 names that just came to my mind on who that player might be. And I think perfect. I think I have the guy, and I don't think he's been on this podcast.
I can bet. Not that I've listened to a lot of the episodes. I can bet that he's not been on the podcast. So that can narrow.
I know he is. I know it is. I just have such.
There's
a good
no
feeling.
way you know who it is. There's no way you know I got it.
All right, I'll ask you after. I'll ask you after. Comment in the YouTube comment section if you think you know who it is. So, all right. So we're in 2019. You get your PGA Tour card, and in 2020, what do you know? COVID strikes us, and then we show up at TPC Harding Park at a PGA Championship, and your expectations going into that week were what?
This is my second major. The week before was the WGC in Memphis, so where we have our first playoff event. Final round of that event, this is all leading up to PGA. Final round of that event, we changed something in my putting stroke. We kind of changed just kind of the weight of like my balance. Like I felt like I was leaning back, so I kind of moved a little bit weight forward.
Oh, wow.
Putted all right that Sunday. So I show up and I was the most relaxed I've ever been showing up to any golf tournament. Partially because I had played there. Like people said like, oh, you've played there hundreds of times. I'd played there maybe 10 times. So I played Harding like 10 times in college. I knew what it was like, but I just knew the city because like we'd go in the city, we'd play Lake Merced, we'd play Cal Club, and we'd play all these SF Golf Club, like some of the best courses in San Francisco. We'd play. So like I knew every road, I knew every highway, I knew how to get there. And I just remember showing up on a Monday. I was like, why is everyone so tense? Like there's 0 fans. There's no one there. It felt super relaxed and everyone just felt so tense. But like, that's what a major is. I felt really tense at Pebble, which was my first major in 19, but that's because I was like literally my first major.
Yeah.
At this point now,
and there's tons of people.
And there's tons of people. It's like you're at Pebble Beach. It's the nicest place in the world. And And now I'm showing up to a Harding Park where, you know, in my opinion, it was not one of my favorites in the city. It was kind of just like, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know what everyone's stressing about. So the most stressful thing for me was at that point, obviously Ryder Cup. Was it Ryder Cup? Yeah. 20 or in 20, Ryder Cup happened in 21.
Yeah. That sounds right.
I think. So like at this point, like I'm kind of on the radar of, you know, just getting to know the captains.
Mm-hmm.
I play a practice round with Steve Stricker. I think Davis Love was there. And that was like the most stressful part of my week was like playing a practice round with them. Cause I'm like, oh, like, I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't want to like make myself look like a fool. But it was like, I just remember like everyone was like so stressed. And I'm like, is this what major golf is like? And I was like, can't be. Like it seriously cannot be like this. And I just kind of went about my business, like did my practice rounds, and you know, obviously it all worked out.
But on Sunday on the first tee, JJ told me this story. How did they announce your name?
Shoot. I want to say they said like Collin Morikawa. I think is how they did it. And I love it because like, I think at least twice a week, like they either get my city wrong or they get my name wrong. And I'm like, I just can't buy my, like, I'm going to change my name. I'm going to change it to like 3 letters, first name, last name, like ABCDEF. All right. From California. That's it. That's
I tell you what, doing my prep for this interview, Collin, for the entire history of my life of knowing your name, I thought you had 1 L in your name until
this is what's up about it, Smylie.
I had no idea you had 2 L's in Collin.
Yeah, I do. Like I don't know how to tell people that. I'm not going to tell people I got 2 L's, but like,
yeah, on me. Trust me. This is coming from a guy with the name Smylie. So
it's pretty easy. Smylie.
Yeah, but nobody could spell it right though. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
But
my name I use like everywhere I go is like Kyle. I just go everywhere. Like I just call him as a Kyle. Yeah, I mean they're not going to ask.
Yeah,
they're not going to ask you how to spell Kyle.
Mine's Carter because that's my first name.
Yeah.
So anywhere I go is Carter. Even at LSU, I went by Carter at all my classes because I didn't know anybody. And the last thing I would have to do is explain my name, Smylie, because everybody back home in Birmingham's like, oh yeah, Smylie, we know the name. We know you forever. Go to Baton Rouge and it's like, okay, were your parents hippies?
Yeah. Well, how'd you get this name? There's something doesn't sound right. Come on.
I can't imagine that there's been any other major champion that has had their name pronounced incorrectly on the first tee on a Sunday. I mean, so you got that for you.
I've gotten Colin Montgomery. We've gotten, yeah, we get it all, but it's brutal.
Was that drive on the 16th hole, Collin? Where do you rank that as far as just most clutch shots you've hit in your career?
Number one.
It's number one.
It's my first major championship. I'm tied for the lead. Paul Casey just made birdie, and I mean, like I can't put anything above it because like it literally set me up to win to win a major. Like, it was the 70th hole of our tournament. For me, I had to make the putt. So to me, the putt is just as equal as the shot, but obviously the shot's what's going to get the credit. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there, and I think it'll be up there for a long, long time.
Yeah, and you chipped in at the 14th hole too. I was going back and looking at highlights. I think everybody remembers the drive at 16, but the chip in at 14 got you in a position to be able to make that eagle and kind of run away with it at 18. And when you hit it left on that 18th hole, that second shot, I'm thinking, oh God, it's so far left. And it lands like 6 feet left of the pin. It's like, this guy has totally different misses than I do.
Well, no, I was aiming so far right. I think it was a 9 hours, like a chunk pull. Thankfully, like that was still a straight ball at the time. And trust me, I was so relieved to see that ball land over the pin. Like, it was not a shot you want to hit. And then it all worked out. Thankfully, I literally had to hit the putt like this far, and then the putt made the way to the hole. And I was like, okay, we're good.
Well, 1 year later, Open Championship in 2021, he battled it out with Jordan Spieth at that one. Royal St. George's Club. JJ told me a pretty good story about the 5th hole, about how it kind of maybe fired you up to propel you to have a really good week.
Yeah, like I don't mind talking to the golf ball and stuff, but I was on like tilt. So this was Saturday. Obviously, we're near the lead, whether we're in the final group or the second to final group. second to last group. I'm like 1 over through 4, and we go to 5. I mean, it's a 5-wood off the tee, like very basic. I hit a shot. It looks good in the air. JJ's like, oh, great shot. And the ball's not even to its apex. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I'm watching it. The wind's taking it. It's falling left. It's falling left. And it ends up right on the lip of a bunker. And
those bunkers are crazy out there that week, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a lot of fescue around them, and all these bunkers. Like if you're on the lip of a bunker on an Open Championship, like you're not gonna have a stance. We're walking up, and I see the ball, and I'm just like, this is stupid. Like you just talked to my ball, and my ball just ended up on the lip of the bunker. Like, so I look at him. I'm so pissed. I almost hit my next shot OB. I chip up, make bogey. I hit a pitching wedge on the next par 3, and I'm just absolutely losing it. And I'm like, you cannot talk to my golf ball like this. Like you just no more talking to my golf ball. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, no. Like, and I hate, this is like the only time I've ever got mad at him, because like, to me, it's never really the caddy's fault. Mm-hmm. Like people are going to make mistakes. Like, yes, we've added numbers wrong, but at the end of the day, like I'm the one that needs to double check everything. So I hate when he apologizes, but like I needed him to apologize for me to get over myself. And at that point we played like a near flawless, 27 holes, let's call it, from that on. But like, I was so mad at him talking to my golf ball that now anytime he talks to my golf ball and it goes wrong, like I think both of us go back to that moment and we're like, yeah, we just can't talk to the golf ball anymore. Like it just can't. Like we'll joke about it now, but like it's, seriously, like at that moment I was ready to rip off heads. I was.
Oh God. And it's so relatable. Any golfer knows that when a player in their group says good shot or their ball is right getting close to the hole and it whips out. Charlie Hume, my co-host and producer on this, is probably the worst at doing this. And I just like stop. Don't you say anything. And
I think it's the worst, like on the putting green. Like if you're playing with your buddies and they're like, oh, nice putt, it's going in. Like, oh, good birdie. And you're like, it's not in.
It's not in.
No,
you shut
it's
up.
Not in.
You shut your mouth.
Yeah. And like it has to be up there with one of the worst feelings. And like one of the like the most messed up things to say to your partner, of just saying like, oh, good drive. Or like, like you're thinking, oh, maybe the ball's in the water or the OB, and you're like, no, it's fine. And they like have no clue where it is. You're just like, you're on full tilt.
It's always a tough scene when that happens. It's a very tough scene. A tough scene for JJ at the 5th hole at Royal St. George's Club. It did work out, and that's kind of where I want to take you to next. Is weaving the Open Championship in 2021. You have got to feel like you're on top of the world. You've already won 2 major championships, and you have to think to yourself, what's next? What can I break? What records can I break? I just can't imagine how much confidence that you probably had leaving that Open Championship that led us into a 2022 that I'm sure was a very frustrating year for you.
Yeah. I mean, golf was simple. Like I knew where the ball was going. I didn't have to sit on the range and try and figure things out. I go in later that fall. I win the race to Dubai and win the DP World Championship over there. And at that point,
even that,
exactly. And at that point, like golf is feeling easy is not the right word, but just you're getting every break that you asked for, right? And like as a golfer, like when you're playing well, you get all the breaks. You think you're lucky, and some of the best players, like you just. The good players are lucky, but that's just how things are going. Yeah. You might hit it way offline and it hits a tree and you're in the middle of the fairway. And, I'm going to fast forward. So we'll go a month later and we go to Tiger's event. And I think this is where, not that Tiger's event bothered me, but this is where it all kind of started to just not go my way. Mm-hmm. And, I think I had a 5-shot lead going to the final round. If I win that day, I think we become number 1 in the world. Lose the lead. Victor ends up winning. And at that point, I'm like, man, like, yes, bad rounds happen. Leads like that. You don't often get a lead like that and then give it away. And at that point I was like, okay, whatever. It's been a long season. Everything still feels good. Whatever. Show into 22. I think we have an okay finish at Hawaii. And then I go over to Dubai And this is where all the nightmare fuel, all the night, just the whole thing goes abrupt. Go to Dubai, feeling a little weird, feeling a little sick, nothing's feeling right. Play Abu Dhabi the first week, go to Dubai, and we're on the range, and I'm just don't know where the ball is going. And this is kind of where I think I went down the wrong path of like trying to figure it out. Instead of just saying, let's get the body right, let's just let it all heal. I come back the next week. I have Rick, my coach, come out, and we are just grinding on the range, going through these new fields, going through things that we've never done. And the problem with me as a student and as someone that wants to perfect it is, and the two coaches I've worked with, right? Rick Sessinghouse and Mark Blackburn, they will vouch for this. And I know for sure JJ will vouch. Anyone that knows me really well will vouch for this. If they bring something up and they just have an idea, I will go down this rabbit hole of coming up with 50 other things and feels that I will just say, oh, I think this feels right. Let me just try this. And then I'll ask a question. I'll be like, well, what does this do? And like, but what if I have my hands here? Or what if I feel this? Well, how about if I clear my lower body and try with pressure here? And that is my worst nemesis. And that's the path I started going down in 22, early in 22 was I started to try these new feels that I've never done in my life ever. And sometimes you have to. Well, so the problem when I was in Dubai was I felt I was coming over the top. Like I was just pulling it hard over the top. And that's fine. Like I've come over the top and I've pulled it left and hit these wipey cuts. And that was kind of my bad thing. But I just felt like anything I did, nothing dropped the club. I couldn't shallow it. And like for me, I couldn't get the club to just be in the slot and just kind of turn. Like for me, that's what I need. I can just hold my wrist conditions and turn. And from there, like I started going down these feels of where like I felt my hands drop and I stopped my lower body. And then, later that summer, US Open, I started playing draws. So for me, it was a nightmare because my body wasn't moving. And then I started using my hands even more. And it was just, and then I think at that point, you go in 3, 4 months, 5 months of doing it. You just build in these patterns and you forget. And that's what sucks about golf is like, you forget what you did for so long. It's still in there, but you have to remember, you have to just find those feels again. And I was so far out of that I think in 2022 to 2023, I've spent more hours on the range in those 2 years, or let's call it a year and a half, than I did my entire college career, and definitely within a span of 5 years before that. Like I've never spent that much time on the range, and like it sucked. It literally sucked, but I'm glad I'm kind of working myself out of that now.
It's so funny you say all that because for golfers, we play our best when we can get away from the game and you can turn your brain off. When you just have that confidence of being able to go on a vacation for 2 weeks or wherever, just get away from the game and come back and know what your ingredients are, exactly what you need to work on. And that's how you're able to work plans and be able to improve and get better. And like you were just talking about, it's so hard to show up week to week and pound balls. And what ends up happening is your body isn't working as well. And then these feels that you think might work, you have to work on them so hard to have you any chance because they're just Band-Aids. Basically what they are.
Yeah, no, it's like, and that's what it was. Like it was a week to week Band-Aid. It was a prayer to, even like you go back to last year, like even as recent as like Detroit, like Detroit's happening right now. Right. I spent that Monday, 4 hours on the range trying to find a feel so I could use for that week. Yeah. It didn't last the next week. Like it was just a 1 week thing. And that's like, what's so scary about golf is that when you don't have it, these feels are just like, fleeting. Yeah, they're so short, but that's our sport.
Yeah, and in 2022 as well. So let's remember all the things that we just talked about, the full swing that you're working on, all these feels, and what people don't realize that surprised me is that in 2019, 2020, 2021, your putting stats, you were never in the top 125 in putting. And you never had a putting coach, or at least hired a full-time putting coach.
For sure not.
2022, you hire Stephen Sweeney. So on top of all the stuff that you're doing on the range, hitting all these golf balls, now you have a putting coach to help you try to improve your putting as well. So I imagined that you just had a lot going on in that 2022 and 23, but Sweeney's really helped you out from looking at your statistics.
Sweeney's been amazing. So that was the end of 22 when I was like, screw the golf swing. Let's just work on putting and let's get this sorted out. And that's what's tough is like you work on one thing that you neglect the other. Sorry, I got my landscapers here. Hopefully that doesn't ruin this. That you have certain things to focus on. You can't focus on every aspect of your golf game unless everything's working. You're like, okay, let me chisel at it. And I think that's what I've learned about golf is like, it's all about just chiseling a little bit versus trying to just throw the biggest load and saying, okay, I'm going to just absolutely do this because all of our golf games are good enough to be out here. Like they truly are. But then we all go down these paths. So Sweeney's been amazing just because I now understand what I need to do and what works for me. And I don't stray away. And when I do, I know what things to go back to. Like just simple mirror putting drills, speed drills, little competitions I do. And the confidence is just so much higher. I'm still looking for those hot streaks that obviously early on in my career, I had a handful of those to be able to win. But now it's way more consistent to where like, if my hitting's not as good, like we're not way off the planet. Like I can still kind of make do. And that's like one of the biggest things.
Anything from a technical aspect that he saw with your putting stroke that y'all fix and right off the get-go in 22?
The biggest thing for me was tempo. So you look at a lot of tempo. I think if you look at Harding Park, for example, where I won, and then you look at like a today stroke, Harding Park was very short back, super accelerated through, really hard hit. Now it's kind of the opposite is like I'll have a longer backstroke and not necessarily decelerate, but just let the putter head fall. And just let it hit. And like from there, on a sliding downhill putt, I don't feel like I'm like shoving the putt. I feel like I'm actually just letting the putter go. That was like the biggest thing. That's still something we work on, tempo. But you see so many people shove it. Not that you can't putt like that, but I don't think you want to have it like super short and just like absolutely jam it at the hole. Like, I don't think you ever see good putters like that.
No, and what it does too, it matches your full swing. Your full swing tendencies for you have such good tempo on the way back. It's slow, it's long. You're never in a rush, so it matches up more that long, flowy backstroke with the putter because it matches kind of what you do with your full swing. You see that a lot up and down the board with PGA Tour players that have short games that kind of mimic their full swings, whether it's tempo or just maybe some technical things.
Well, if you can have your entire golf game from like tee shots to putting look like you're the same person, then I think that's how you put a complete player. Right. And it's like, well, how do you do that? And it's so hard to do it. Like now I'm thinking about like, what does it look like? I feel like my bunker game's different than my chipping, than my actual iron shots. I'm like,
everything's good. Trust me. I'm not letting you get down a rabbit hole coming on the Smylie show.
But yeah, that's like when you look at some of the best players, like I love Jordan because like everything's kind of that same rhythm. The swing looks similar to the chips and just how he drives it. And then the putts are similar with the little forward press. Like it all matches. And that's what's really cool when you see some of these players. Everyone's different. But when it matches, like that's when you start playing really well. Yeah,
totally. And you mentioned that you went and saw Mark Blackburn. This would have been last fall, and you won at the Zozo Championship in Japan. And I think a lot of people forget about that because it was in the middle of the night over here in the States. But you did win with Mark Blackburn, and I'm curious just from what you've learned about yourself, about maybe some technical things that you may have picked up from Mark and the way he coached you that you were able to take back to Rick and be able to have the ingredients and just the confidence that you kind of know what direction you want to go with your stuff.
Yeah. Look, Mark was my second essentially ever coach in the past, since high school, like since junior golf. He's the second ever person I've ever really talked to about the golf swing. We won our first week. Working together.
First week. And,
it was first week. Yeah, literally. He came out to Vegas about a week and a half I left before Japan. And then I go to Japan and we win. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'm back. I'm
You're
like,
back.
nothing's stopping me. Like nothing is stopping me. I mean, Ryder Cup, I played some awful golf and I hate it because like, that's when you want to play your best golf is you're wearing the red, white, and blue. You want to show up. And I got absolutely whooped by Victor that singles day. And at that point, I was like,
playing
man,
some good golf.
He was,
he was,
but like, he was, and I knew
totally.
I had to play really good, but like, I had no chance. Like, the golf I played that day was just horrible. And when I won in Japan, I was like, I don't think I could lose this. Like, I don't think what I just did will ever go away, and I think I can repeat this every day. That's what we all believe. You know, it feels that easy some days, and it's not the others. The biggest thing I learned from Mark, and Mark, I love him. Mark, I hope you listen to this because I still owe you a pickleball match. I think I can beat you. Mark is so smart. I mean, you know him, right? Like,
yeah, I worked with Mark. He's incredible.
He's one of the smartest people I've ever met that knows the golf swing, that understands the golf swing, that knows cause and effects.
Matchups.
And
it's impressive.
That's what I needed. And at that point, you know, because what Rick and I do really well is we talk through the fields. He's big on the mental side, but we talk through the fields and we kind of go through that stuff. And, you know, through 22, 23, I kind of hit a point where I was like, we don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. I didn't have what I was looking for. And I was frustrated through that year and a half that I needed this reset. And, you know, with Mark, whenever I asked for something, he always had an answer. And if it didn't work, we always tried something new. And that's what I needed. But I realized through this little period of kind of going from the fall of 23, beginning of 24 this year, kind of going through, you know, Bay Hill, I missed a cut. We go to Players. I'm searching. I have no clue what to do. And this early few months of the year, nothing was kind of going where I wanted. That I kind of got to a point of saying, look, I have all the answers because Mark has all the answers, but it's still not coming through. Like something's still not putting from the range to the golf course, being able to put together the shots. So, you know, I end the relationship with Mark, and I will ever be grateful for that because, one, he gave me the knowledge that I've never had. So I now understand the golf swing just from a cause and effect, this versus that. You know, you move something here, this is where the club's going to go. This is where the hands are going to go. That's stuff that, like, you know, you just dive a little bit deeper into golf, like you start to understand. But the biggest thing that I think I've even learned personally that, you know, I don't think even Mark told me or Rick told me or anyone's told me, that I just kind of figured out, was it doesn't matter all these feels. Learn. And for me, what I told Mark and Rick through all this process of when I was not hitting the ball well was like, I don't know where the golf club is, which means I don't know where the face is in relation to where my hands and body are. I didn't know if it was closed. I didn't know where it was open. I didn't know where the ball was. So what I've done, and I think why I'm hitting the ball a little bit better, I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but it's definitely not where I was earlier this year, a year ago, 2 years ago, was I've now matched and figured out where the club face was. Yeah. And it's so hard to do, but I started just messing around and saying, okay, I'm going to start this ball and put it on the toe and just find the center of the face and learn how to hit the center of the face. You know, I've talked to Tiger. I was like, you know, this was a few years ago when Charlie was just getting in, Charlie's kid. And not that I've ever met Charlie, but he's like, yeah, all I'm just telling him to do is like, you can swing as hard as you want, but you just need to find the center of the face. If you can find the center of the face, you can do whatever you want with your golf swing. But the best players always come back to impact and they're hitting the center of the face. They wear out that spot. And I started just screwing around with like almost setting the club where the ball wasn't on the face and finding how to hit the center. And then starting it on the heel. Like, you know, I watched Sahith Theegala or Sahith.
He does it.
The dude sets it on the hosel. He sets it on the hosel. And I'm like, this is like this is scary. But if you know how to move your hands and find it in the center of the face, you can screw around and have fun like that. And that kind of got me the feels of like, okay, it's learning where my hands are going to be in relation to space as I'm coming through impact and finding the center of the face. And that has been one of the biggest things that I've learned is like, doesn't matter how you swing, doesn't matter what the feels are at the top of the backswing. Those are all Band-Aids. But at the end of the day, the best players find the center of the face. They know where the face is, and you can either hold it off, let the club release, whatever it is. That was the key for me. There's obviously a lot more to it, but for people listening, like, just learn how to hit the center of the face. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Learn how to hit the center of the face, and you will see you'll see a repetitive motion. You'll see a repetitive shot if you find the center of the face. People just don't find the center of the face.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir over here.
Exactly.
As you and I were texting to set up this amazing conversation thus far, I said, you know what? I'm playing Friday afternoon. I'm scheduled to play Saturday morning, but there's a chance I don't play Saturday morning if I decide to give the game up. And you're like, no, you're going to play Saturday morning.
You're going to play. So, there's no way you don't. It's just because if it doesn't go well today, you're going to just try something new. And it's like, that's why golf is amazing. It's like you can always try something new every day. And there's a million things you can try, like I've been, I look on Instagram and Twitter and you see Sauce Gardner, right? He's like picking up the game. You see that?
Yeah. I love it.
And like he's like, I'm just been watching a bunch of YouTubes. And I'm like, buddy, wait till you talk to like 5 golfers. You're going to have 50 million things to try and you're going to be screwed. Like there is something about being just, ignorant about the entire golf game. And then you just go out and hit the ball. But like, that's the simple. It's like, oh, what do you do? I hit a ball that doesn't move. All right. It can't be that hard.
Well, welcome, Sauce. One of us. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, one of us. Yes.
Come on. Water's great. Could jump on in, buddy.
Yeah. Just like, it's just like golf cult that you're just going to go down this rabbit hole and it's just going to kind of spiral into this million thought process of how do I hit this golf ball? Welcome.
All right, man. Let's wrap up with 2024. And I just want to kind of run through just what you've been able to accomplish really since, post Valero. You finished 3rd at the Masters. Let's go through your majors. You finished 4th at the PGA, 14th at the US Open. You're on a streak of 8 straight top 16s and stroke play events without a partner. So we're gonna put the Zurich Char Grilled Oysters as a T23.
My Zurich record's not too good. If anyone, I'm looking for a partner. Kurt, maybe you come back, but
I'll play with you.
Done. I'll get you in. I'm a Zurich guy. I get you in. I mean, my best finish was this year. It was a T28th, whatever it was.
Yeah, there you go.
It's my best finish ever. So I got some work to do. Start practicing, Smylie.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. I'll let you know how I play today. But anyways, 5 top 10s. I mean, in a row. I mean, you're in a really good spot as far as just how well you've been able to just put rounds together, man, this year. It's been really fun to watch and it's been so impressive. And for like the longest time, I think I was just waiting to see, all right, is he going to be able to keep that consistency up? And that every single week, man, I just look at your stats and the putting to me is what seemed like got you over the hump early in the spring that kind of allowed your ball striking to kind of come into form, where I noticed that you just had these great putting rounds and it sets you up to have really nice weeks. So you feel like that's kind of how your year's kind of gone in 2024, where the ball striking's now kind of there?
A little bit. I mean, when you're putting well, it takes the stress off hitting it really close. But the problem is, like, if you're going to contend in these tournaments, you got to make birdies. You got to hit it closer. Right. And knowing what I've done in the past, it's like, okay, I still put an emphasis on my approach shots. Putting definitely got me over. I mean, I putted, I think, really, really well at Augusta.
Yes.
And for me, those are some of my favorite greens to putt on because you take out all the analytical stuff. It is just high line, drip speed. How do I make this?
Yeah.
And I've been using aim point and so exactly. And it's like, you have to do that stuff. And that's like, it always frees me up when I go over there and like, whether I putt well or I play well, it's fun to putt out there because it's just, you got to be creative.
Yeah.
And for me, I think when I go back, you started at Augusta, I think with the irons, I started to see shots where I could swing free. And not only just swing free, and it's not like this carefree where you don't care where the ball goes. I still want the ball to go where I want, but I trusted that my good shots were going to be good and my misses were going to be okay. And that's the worst, is when you think your misses are going to be really, really bad. and you don't know where it's going to go, well, that's where your ball is going to go. And, we found a swing thought at Augusta. We kept trying that. And I would say this past kind of month and a half, 2 months, maybe after Zurich, is where I kind of came together and had another swing thought, this other feel. And it's allowed me to just swing it. And now when I miss the shot and I miss it, just say left. I hate missing it left, but when I do miss it left, I know the answer. It's just like putting. If I hit a bad putt, I'm like, I know what I did, or at least I know the two things that I did. So I'm at that point now where I'm hitting the ball, and if I hit a bad shot, I know what it is, versus me saying, maybe it was this, or maybe I could have done this. Maybe it was that. The maybes is what scares you. And I'm at this point now where it's not about the maybes. It's just more about, did I execute it or not? Like, how many times can I repeat it? And it's so fun. Like, I mean, it, like it's so fun to play golf like that. But now it's about closing out tournaments. It's about winning. How do I put together 4 rounds? My final rounds haven't been as good as I've wanted, or just solid at all, and it's just like, how do I put together these rounds? And to me, it's just more of a mental thing. It's just more of me kind of going through my business and being as prepared as I am on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and just saying, okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Did you bend Tiger's ear a little bit at the Tiger Jam in Vegas right before the Memorial, just about closing the deal and winning? Like, were you able to ask him any questions in regards to that?
No, and I should have. Now I'm writing down. I'm going to write down a list for our TaylorMade sheet at the end of the year. How do you?
Well, unfortunately, you got the rest of the guys there.
Scotty.
That's
I got Scotty. I got Rory. I got Tiger. I mean, shoot, I got a great crew to ask on how to win tournaments. No, I think everyone's different, and I don't. When I look back at my wins, to me, winning is not about. It's not about like, how do I do this? It's not like, how do you win? Like, I don't think anyone can write a book on how to win.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, there's no secret, but I think when I look back at all of my wins and I look back at the good events, there's a certain thing and a certain trait essentially to how the week kind of goes, and that mentality you have at the beginning of a Sunday and just how you go through your prep. That is the biggest thing on how you perform well on a Sunday. Not like, oh man, this is what I need to do. I have to hit this. I have to do this. It's just more about the flow of the day. And I think it's just a small little tweak. And then it's just showing up on Sundays and just going off, so hopefully, this next kind of 2 months to end the season, hopefully I can just kind of go on a little tear, similar to obviously what Scotty's been doing, but to what Victor did last year, and just find a groove on putting together 4 really good rounds of closing out golf tournaments. I mean, it is very, very close. And it's not something I need to essentially do in the golf game. It's just more about, how do I go through my day and just say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Maybe I need to have coffee on a Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah. Come on. We'll get some coffee.
So
my favorite moment from you in 2024 was at Jack's place on the 12th hole. And you talked about swinging freely and be able to hit shots with confidence. Everybody knows that has played in Jack's event, how difficult that Sunday pin is and how firm those greens are. And you got up there first and you hit a beautiful, looked like a little floaty 7-iron, 25 feet left of it. And of course, you're going up against Scotty Scheffler, and he somehow finds that there's room in between your golf ball and the pin. And you're just like, what am I supposed to do here? But on that walk to the green in that situation, were you telling yourself, I'm going to make this and I'm going to get myself something to think of, or for Scotty for something to think about on his putt that he actually did miss?
Honestly, I was just trying to get out of there with par. That putt was breaking maybe 7-8 feet left to right. But like, that's the momentum swings. Like, I'm not trying to just make par. I'm obviously trying to make the putt, but those are the putts where you're like, if that drops, I mean, that is so big on my side of momentum. And then for him to miss, it's like, we are still very much in this golf tournament.
We had a ball game.
Back to the ball striking though, on that hole, like when I'm able to pick up the tee and not really watch the ball and just kind of be like, oh, it's fine with water and bunkers and everything, that's when you know you have full control. when you know exactly how it's spinning, when you know how you hit it, and you know the ball's going within a window of 3 yards, that's full control. So that was definitely the putt of the week. For me, that was like, okay, we're still in this. And like, to be honest, the way it all played out, I think I made bogey on 16. So I was down 2 with 2 to go.
Good hole.
Gave me,
16.
I'm going to bring up JT because that's exactly what, great hole. I love it. Jack, I know you redid it. Blow it up. Let's make a new hole. I'm sure you listen to podcasts all the time, but like, I think we're at a point where like no one hits the green. It kind of gave me that like JT workday vibes that we had during COVID, where I ended up, we had that playoff and all that. Cause it was in the exact same position. I was 2 down with 2 to go, against JT. I made birdie on a 17 and I made par, go to a playoff. This one, I make a 5-footer for par. Scotty makes bogey on 17. And then on 18, like, honestly, I thought I made it. Like, I thought I at least gave myself a chance, and it didn't go in, but, it's just one of those courses where I've played well. I've had good finishes. I mean, I think I missed the cut a few years ago, but it's like you show up and you think you can birdie every hole. And,
it's the risk reward on that place is if you pull off the shots, you get good birdie looks, but you have 6 footers that break 2 feet. So you it's a little bit like Augusta, like you talked about. So super sweet golf course. And the Travelers, real quick, because I'd be remiss not to ask you this question. How do you hit a shot from 60 yards and really low and make the ball stop on top of a car? Because as you saw that I commented on your Instagram, I said, "You're a wizard, Collin." And I hope you read it in Haggard's voice.
I did. All the conditions were with me. It was a perfect downgrade lie. I mean, I was pitching into an upslope.
It's a fun shot.
Yeah, it's a fun shot when you pull it off, and like, I pull it. If I pull it even like 3 yards left of that, it's in the water. I don't know. There's a lot of movement. For me, I lean back a lot on my chip shots. That's one you cannot lean back. Like, I work on just kind of keeping my head forward and keeping it centered and all that stuff. That's just a shot that I think only professionals can pull off, and like really good, really, really good, golfers that play every day. Like, I don't think you could teach that specific shot to an amateur. Like, you could teach them how to spin the shot, but I don't think you're creating that spin for an amateur golfer. Like,
it was sick. It's like the coolest video ever.
I love it. Like, I've watched it since I've gotten home. I've watched it at least 20 times, and I'm like, shit, this was good.
Sick.
This was amazing.
Between that and the picture of you almost chipping in behind the green at 18 with they shot it from the front. It just was, I mean, that's got to be your new profile pic, by the way. That's
maybe I'll move it. I'll change it just for you.
Yeah.
You need some different mojo.
Well, what's the rest of the year we got? So are we doing Scottish and Open, or is that the next 2?
Scottish Open, week off, and Olympics, and then we're off to playoffs. So
Olympics.
We got a big stretch. Yeah, I'm very, very happy. It's an honor. I added 2 events this year just to see if I can give myself a chance to make the Olympics. You go back all the way to Bay Hill. I think if you look at my world golf ranking and you look at where I was in those standings, I was just nowhere to be seen. But it's been a nice stretch, and that's, I wanted to make a push forward, and I'm super, super happy to be a part of that team.
That's a hell of an accomplishment. And if I recall the last Olympics, you were in a 7-way tie for 3rd and tried to get that bronze medal. What a weird deal. 7 guys for 1 medal. It's just,
what makes it worse is that I made it all the way. It was like it was me and CT Pan. Like, I were the last 2 guys, and I plug it in the bunker. I make bogey, and I'm like, that's how I lose. Like, I grinded out 72 holes, 3 extra playoff holes to lose because I plugged it in the bunker, hit a bunker shot, and I make bogey. Like, that terrible way. So hopefully we can do a little bit better on that.
Man, well, this has been a great conversation, Collin. I appreciate you coming on. We'll be cheering for you to try to get your second Open Championship. We'll see you through the playoffs, and maybe you'll come join us on happy hour at some point at one of these events, because I'd love to have you call some golf with me, because your golf knowledge is great. Would love to hear you just maybe just roast Max Homa when he's playing golf, because he does the roasting. So
hard to do, though. Max is such a good guy. Like, Max never says a bad thing about me, or maybe he does, and I just don't hear it. But it's hard for me to say anything bad about Max, because I think Max is one of the best people that I know, and I'm very lucky to have him, and my close friends. So, but I'll try. We'll see.
Good stuff, buddy, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. I mean, it's 8 a.m. in Vegas. There's only, where are you heading? You gonna play some golf?
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll probably go practice a little bit early. I mean, Summit is you know the Discovery life. Yeah,
I should have worn my Summit hat.
It's pretty good.
We could have matched.
It's pretty good. It's all right. Dang. It's all right. I think the people should put a line on what you need to shoot to have a chance to be my Zurich partner. So we'll set it. I mean, for 2 days. I don't know where you're playing. We'll just set it like 7 under. I think that's a fair number.
That's a fair number.
2 day total, 7 under to have a chance.
I think that's actually right where it should be, because if things go like I think it will go today, I think I'm gonna have to grind for a 2 under par 70. Like, I think it's gonna be some hard work. But when you haven't played in 3 weeks, you know how it goes. Like, you just need to play that one round. If I could just sneak it under par, and then tomorrow maybe I'll take it deep. So who knows?
All right. Not too many beers on the course. Not too many drinks on the course today. All right. This is This is your draft day. This is your draft day.
And even if I don't, I'm just going to keep moving the goalposts throughout the year until eventually I'm just carrying your bag in the Pro-Am.
No, you don't. It's an 18-hole Pro-Am. I don't think you don't want that one. You don't want that one. Too long.
Man. Good stuff, Collin. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
we'll be cheering for you, buddy. See you.
Appreciate it, man.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too. So please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the